Welcome to the Dawg House Podcast. Alabama fans, what happened? Lost to Vanderbilt? How dare you? One of the biggest shocking upsets I've ever seen. Anything can happen in the SEC on any given Saturday. Also, Tennessee getting upset by Arkansas. What were you doing? Georgia gets the win against Auburn. We discussed that. Also have a great return guest, Landon Tucker from My Dawgs Are Barking podcast. We preview and predict Mississippi State going on the road at Georgia. And as always, on the road to 1,000 subscribers. If you could help me out, like, subscribe, share the podcast as always. Got a Dawg House Podcast return guest, Landon Tucker. He like to say the other Tucker from My Dawgs Are Barking podcast. How we doing today, Landon?
Man, doing well. Excited to talk with you, Trey. It's always fun talking with Trey. And man, it's the Bulldogs versus the Bulldogs this week, and really two seasons that are going the opposite direction.
Right.
And so as we kind of meet this Saturday in Athens, we'll see how it goes. If Georgia's going to just be the powerhouse selves, that they have been, this will be the first game since the Alabama game. If I'm correct, you guys were on a bye week this past week. Is that right?
We actually beat Auburn.
Oh, yes. No, of course. Man, I'm completely bypassing that. That's right. So took care of business at Auburn, and then all of a sudden kind of has to get Mississippi State out of the way before going on the final stretch of the season. So, yeah, should be exciting.
That's right. And as always, when Mississippi State and Georgia play, the dogs will win. One dog will win for sure. So you can guarantee that. So, yeah, looking into it, Georgia beats Auburn 31-13 this past weekend, and we'll get into a little bit of the aftermath on that. I'd say all in all, good win. There are some things Georgia could work on. It just seemed like a strain the whole time on offense. It's just a lot of dinking and dunking. Also, when I realized that Drew Bobo, the third string center, was in, who's actually ironically Mike Bobo's son, because Jared Wilson was a last-minute scratch. I was a little nervous because, when you have a inexperienced center in, that can always be a problem. But he had clean snaps, clean from the shotgun, so he did well. No turnovers, which is always a great thing. But it always just seems like Georgia was in second gear, just a lot of dinking and dunking with stall out. Running game slowly kind of got going. Trevor Etienne, 16 carries, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns. We did get to see Nate Frazier. A lot of Georgia fans were hollering where was he at the last couple of games. Branson Robinson continues to struggle a little bit. I'm just not quite sure he's over that knee injury. I know that was a bad tear in the offseason, so he might still be slowly trying to get his footing there. Colby Young was the leading receiver, Miami transfer. Landon Humphreys got a couple of catches coming off mono. He was out previous week. So all in all, good win. We did have some poor tackling with Jaquez Hunter on that long run. He did have 91 yards and a touchdown. Peyton Thorne, if you're an Auburn fan, he didn't turn the ball over. Maybe did about as good as he can. But all in all, definitely a good win. I believe we kind of got out with some injuries, with no injuries. I think Christian Miller on D-line got banged up. So all in all, good win, especially over Auburn. I believe this is 8 straight. So 31-13, we'll take it, especially with everything else and chaos in college football in the SEC. But yeah, good win.
Y'all,
we'll move on to you guys.
Yeah, y'all avoided the disaster that other folks unfortunately suffered. And I was gone the first part, like I was away from TV and kind of as much phone access as I could have had while this game was going on. So I didn't get a chance to watch it. So was this a game where Georgia, like to you, was Georgia just kind of like sleepwalking through it, or did it look like they had some legitimate struggles?
I'd say a little bit of struggles, but it kind of always felt like they were never in danger. It was 14-3 late in the second. It just seems like Peyton Thorne and Auburn really couldn't take any shots downfield. Georgia kind of contained them. Carson Beck had a good performance, didn't turn the ball over, 23 of 29, 240, and 2 touchdowns. But I just wish they would let him take shots deep. Not a lot of vertical, deep, explosive plays. It was a lot of screen passes, bubble screens out of the backfield that Mike Bobo likes to play. Had some poor tackling, need to clean up. Had some late penalties. It got a little sloppy. I believe they had like around 8 penalties. But if you would have told anybody before the game, if no team didn't have any turnovers and Georgia won the rushing battle by 4, probably going to go to the team. But stat-wise, if you look at the stat sheet, very similar to each other. They were like, wasn't an over discrepancy on that end. So if you looked at box score, you're like, hey, this would be a close game. I think Georgia was the better team, 31-13, got out clean. I don't really know where Auburn's going to go from here. And Hugh Freeze, each loss mounts. But previous guy off the Up Tempo podcast, he said I think he should stay another year, but a lot of hot seat smoke on him next year for Hugh Freeze. But yeah, all in all,
it seems like
good win. Kind of struggled a little bit, but good win.
It seems like with Auburn, it appears like that they're going to end up giving Hugh another season, because the word on the street is that the NIL is rolling deep for this offseason at Auburn. And many people have already had this take. But if Auburn were to get a transfer portal quarterback this offseason, we're talking about an entirely different team, because they've got a lot of pieces around them. But just from what I've heard from several people, and I don't have real deep roots connected on Auburn. I live in Tuscaloosa, but there's a large amount of NIL that's available, and they're planning on going quote unquote all in, whatever that really means in the offseason. But honestly, it might just mean getting a quarterback. I mean, look at Miami gets a quarterback, and their entire trajectory is completely turned around. So yeah, that was I'm looking forward to this kind of game being a rivalry game that really could go either way. I know last season was a closer game, but I mean, Georgia was the much better team, just as they were this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think Hugh Freeze, if he can get his quarterback in there, he'd be a problem for some teams or for some. So I think that's the answer to your question. That's what he is. That's what they're missing at Auburn. And if they do give him some more time, I think his third year is going to be crucial. He was putting some pieces in the offseason. You can tell they were kind of spending some money with the NIL. I think it was D-line, wide receiver, some of the skill positions. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that. And then speaking to that, since I didn't know you lived in Tuscaloosa, how's the vibe in Tuscaloosa from what you've seen after Vanderbilt shocking the world, beating Alabama 40-34? I think they were still honeymooning and partying after beating Georgia last week. So how's the vibe there in Tuscaloosa?
Man, it is it's a little lowly. It's a little damper, to be honest with you. It's not something that is typical in Tuscaloosa. There's just a different vibe, and you knew it coming into the season. If DeBoer was to lose, I'm going to say something very sacrilegious, but let's just say 3 games in a season, there's going to be some serious pressure, as crazy as it is being in their very first season. But they lose to Vanderbilt in this game. And I know people will compare, Nick Saban and his first loss to losing him to run the first season. But we got to remember, that's not with an established roster. Nick Saban was turning around a program. Alabama has one of the best rosters in the entire country and still lost to Vanderbilt. This city's a little bummed out. And because of this loss, now, if they were to lose to Georgia, I think it'd be a little bit different. They'd be disappointed. But now he's going to be under a little closer magnifying glass as the season goes along. So if there's another slip up like this, I mean, people here are talking about like the type of shirt he's wearing as something that they don't enjoy or something that they don't like. So imagine if he slips up and loses another couple of games. It's weird. It's weird, man. I know after winning so many games, there's it's hard to be patient, but they're going to have to give their guys some time, because it's an odd feeling right now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely a bad loss. Very surprising. But I feel like you got Jalen Milroe. I want to say Milroe again for all the Bama fans, because I said Milroe a couple weeks ago and they got all over me. He's still explosive, looking great. You got Ryan Williams, the phenom, who had another 2 touchdowns. But if I had to pinpoint anything looking at that game, the defense, of course, is not the same as Saban's, as previous, Saban teams. And then, giving up that little comeback that Georgia did, rallying back to put 34 on them, and then Vanderbilt putting 40. I think they got some holes in the defense. And then you got they got South Carolina coming up, which they didn't look great against Ole Miss, getting almost shut out 27-3. And then you got Tennessee. Got to go to Tennessee. Got to go to Knoxville. So got some interesting matchups down the road for Alabama. And also touch on it real quick. Tennessee getting upset by Arkansas. it seems like, I don't know if they're figuring out the Nico scheme and offense, because, as you know, most Heupel teams, they start out video game numbers, and I think everybody kind of figures it out. He's looking like he's kind of being humble and come back down to earth. Defense looks solid, but that was surprising. Arkansas, beating them at home.
Seems like Arkansas has surprised all of us. I really got Arkansas wrong. I thought Pittman was going to be gone by now at this point in the season. I didn't think Taylor Green would perform, and he's got some issues, right? But he's super athletic and can make some plays that way. Yeah, the Tennessee experience, Nico, he is young, but they have put a lot of stock into him, along with the roster that already surrounds Tennessee. So yeah, I did not see the loss coming, but it's an SEC Saturday night on the road. And he just seemed towards the end of the game, he just kind of made a freshman mistake, even though he is incredibly talented.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure they'll hopefully make some adjustments, and that Alabama Tennessee game, that'll be crazy in 2 weeks. And I believe it's been announced that's going to be the 3:30 game, and Georgia Texas is going to be the 7:30 game. That was announced today. So Georgia's going to be in prime time in Austin. I believe that's Formula 51 or whatever that is at the same weekend. So I always heard a lot of Georgia fans complaining that probably tickets and hotels are going to be hard to come by. So we'll see. Hopefully Georgia fans can travel. And then one last one I did want to mention, Missouri getting blasted by Texas A&M. I knew Missouri, who'd kind of rolled around and struggled with some teams. Vanderbilt took them to OT a couple of weeks. So what's your thoughts on that quickly, on Texas A&M blasting Missouri?
And another thing I didn't see coming, but several people said Missouri might be, I'm not going to be as aggressive as to say fraudulent, but like maybe did not play the competition that they should have in the front half of the season, and were just really tested. And A&M, while they might not be, they can run the ball fairly well with Le'Veon Moss, but they're not like an explosive offense. It's not what they're known for. It's for that stingy defense. And Elko really, really had a great game plan with Brady Cook, and they just could not get going. Couldn't take the deep shots down the field, and it's remarkable. Before that game, Vegas knows all, and Texas A&M was favored in that game, and I couldn't figure it out. But they nailed it. Yeah, Missouri, man, their season's not over. Like, there's a lot of season left, but you have to be discouraged leaving that game on Saturday.
Yeah. I think they're really missing the Cody Schrader kid opening up the run. I think they're really missing him from last year. And then, as you know, when you can run the ball, like, you can take more deep shots at Luther Burton. So I think they're missing him, even though Brady Cook's is a good quarterback. It seems like he's just struggling, not getting together this year. And then it looks like all these fans could definitely use our Viva Tequila Seltzer, our great sponsor for the show, definitely SEC fans, after the surprising losses. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, great on tailgate, great at the beach. 18 round of golf, Dawg House 20 to get 20% off. VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. My personal favorite is the watermelon. Huckleberry, elderberry is also great. So check them out. VivaTequilaSeltzer.com. Also on Instagram. Again, that's Dawg House 20, 20% off. Check those guys out. And looking at the matchup, Mississippi State comes to Athens. It's going to be 4:15 kick, which is an interesting kick because it's usually 12, 3:30, 7. Interesting kick time, all about the time. I think it's SEC Network. It is 33-point spread, which is a big spread, and Georgia actually haven't been covering. I think they've only covered one time, and that was against Clemson. But going to be an interesting matchup. So wanted to get your thoughts on it. I know you guys are coming off a bye week, 1-4. From doing a little research on you guys, looks like you guys did hang around a little bit against Texas. So, yeah, I just wanted to see what you're looking at come to the game, maybe some improvements from the Bulldogs.
Yeah, well, when Mississippi State fans looked at the schedule at the beginning of the season and saw on the road in Austin facing Texas, bye week, and then on the road at Georgia, and a couple weeks later going on the road at Tennessee, and then Ole Miss to finish the season, they knew this was going to be a monster. Now, what I think fans did not expect is 2 weeks ago in Austin, Mississippi State played one of the best first halves that they have played against at the moment, where is maybe Texas is a top 3 team in the country, and held their own by just controlling the clock, because obviously Mississippi State does not have the talent that a Texas does have. But if you can hold on to the ball and run the ball, and keep it away from Arch Manning and Ewers and all those guys. That's how Mississippi State kept it close. It was 7-6 before the final play of the half when Arch Manning just bombed a touchdown. But 13-6 is not something Mississippi State thought the score would be at half. And so coming off of that one, even though they end the game losing 35-13, they're a little encouraged because that loss compared to a 41-17 loss versus Toledo, it is an improvement, as sad as it is to say. So now Mississippi State comes in and is going on the road yet again against Georgia. And I've got this feeling that 2 weeks from now, after the Texas and Georgia game, Georgia is going to be able to stand and say that it's very possible that they are the number one team in the country. They had a very close loss last second on the road against Alabama, and then has an opportunity to go win against Texas. Not a lot of folks are talking about that at the given moment, but I can certainly see that happening. For Mississippi State, it's going to be more of the same when it comes to their game plan against Texas. They're going to try to hold on to the ball as long as they can. So expect a lot of runs from Mississippi State. Be prepared for them to snap the ball with 3 and 4 seconds left on the play clock. And that's really their only way to stay somewhat close in this game. But for Georgia's going to be able to get all they want over the top. And obviously their run game with ETN and company has an opportunity to have a really big day as well. So Mississippi State has got their hands full. That's for sure.
Yeah, it should be a good matchup. Is it Bo Shapen? Is he the backup quarterback? Does your starter get hurt earlier in the year? And I wanted to see what's your thoughts on him.
Yeah. So Blake Shapen was the transfer quarterback from Baylor. He started the first 4 games of the season and had a shoulder injury and is now out for the season. So in comes true freshman Michael Van Buren, who his first official start was on the road at Texas, and really and truly played pretty well. I mean, for a true freshman, really young guy. And he's a very talented guy. He was committed to Oregon for a very long time before Dylan Gabriel went there, and Dante Moore as well. So he decided to come and follow Lebby here after their communication whenever he was at Oklahoma. So he's a really talented guy, but true freshman going on the road at Austin to start his career is rough. Now he's got to go into Athens. What you'll see from Michael Van Buren is he's a pretty athletic guy. Mississippi State's offensive line is really struggling trying to find the right combination. So Georgia's going to be able to get some pressure. But Michael Van Buren does have some athleticism to escape the pocket. Now, he might not escape the pocket and roll out the way that Nico did versus Arkansas and throw a bomb. But he's going to try to avoid getting in those 3rd and long situations. So for a true freshman, you really couldn't give him a tougher start to go on the road at Texas and now on the road against Georgia. But I know Georgia's certainly going to look to take advantage of his inexperience.
Yeah, that should be good. So for if he's mobile of any type, could give Georgia some problems. Mobile quarterbacks have always given them problems. And if you maybe Mississippi State can kind of do maybe the whole Kentucky strategy of limit possessions, slow down the game. Kentucky's always give Georgia problems, at least in Lexington. So I think that would be, a recipe for you guys. I see 33-point spread, actually 32 on ESPN. So wanted to see if you would do a score prediction on your end. I always like to kind of ask the.
That's interesting. And when this initially opened yesterday, I believe it was at 34. So for whatever reason, it's gone down just a little bit.
That's right.
I don't know if Georgia's going to cover the spread only because of just sheer boredom of kind of playing with its food versus a lesser opponent. It might be a similar situation to that of Kentucky, which Mississippi State fans would be very proud of. But the defense for Mississippi State, I think this game has the potential for State to stay within 2.5 scores in the first half. Mm-hmm. But eventually the defense is just not going to have – they don't have the talent, but then secondly, they're just not going to have the stamina to keep up. So in this game, I'm going to go with – I'm going to say Georgia 38. Georgia 38, and I'll give Mississippi State 16. I think they might find a way to get Van Buren to score maybe once more than he did in the Texas game.
Yes, Landon's got 38-16. Yeah, I can see that. I think how's your I didn't look at the stats. How's the secondary? And if there was maybe a disadvantage, I mean, you can give a positive and disadvantage on the defense. What would you say so far?
Goodness. Well, I'll tell you this. Mississippi State has 2 of the top 5 leading tacklers in the SEC. They have the number 1 leading tackler in the nation. Unfortunately, he's in the secondary. So you can see that people are getting to the second and third level. When it comes to covering or in coverage, Mississippi State really has struggled in the secondary. So Georgia has some shots. That's why I think it's possible that Georgia kind of, as I mentioned, kind of plays with his food for a little bit. But whenever Carson Beck wants to take a shot, he's going to have several opportunities. Versus Texas, Arch Manning had a couple opportunities, and he just had a few touchdowns that were just dropped. That they had beat the coverage and burned their man, and then they just simply dropped the pass. So I could see a scenario like that for Georgia, or pardon me, not where they drop it, but where they have the opportunity to score on those plays.
Yeah, let's hope we get the running game going. So Trevor Etienne's kind of come to his own finally a little bit, and then hopefully we can get Nate Frazier to that second level, like what you said, and get – I think your core guys that you can kind of see Georgia has is going to be Dominique Lovett, Colby Young. You also have Dylan Bell, and then Arian Smith, if he doesn't drop the ball, is explosive. Take some shots to him. So I'm going to say Georgia – Mississippi State can hang around in the first half, like I said, but I'm going to go 41-10, and don't be surprised if this is 21-7 at halftime, and then Georgia should, just because they got more athletes, more dudes, hopefully pull away and just kind of get unscathed with no injuries for the big-time matchup. And I hope this isn't a look ahead for Georgia because they're looking at Texas. Also, hopefully we can get the fans actually loud because Kirby Smart – that was one of his complaints is the Georgia fan had no juice. He wasn't let's just say he was a little disappointed on the fan support crowd noise this past week.
Well, and you have a coach in Kirby Smart that is going to make sure, and this is something he's really good at. He learned under the Nick Saban tree of making sure that his guys are locked into this game and not looking ahead at the next game. Because if there's any sort of talk about that, I have a feeling that Kirby's going to be very excited to bring them back down to earth. And make sure that they're focused on this game,
especially after this weekend with all the upsets. So anything can happen in the SEC. And as he always says, humility is 1 week away. That's what Kirby says. But yeah, Landon, appreciate you coming on again. How can we follow your content? I know you just had a change, which you can announce, which was big for you. Got your Twitter coming up here.
Awesome, man. Yeah. It's My Dawgs Are Barking. Our show just joined the MPW Digital Network in Mississippi. So we're really excited about that. That's a network that has several shows, but did not have a Mississippi State show. And so we're so excited to join them. So you can find us there on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Twitter, you can just follow us at My Dawgs Pod.
There we go right there. He's definitely growing. My Dawgs Are Barking on Twitter there and on the MPW. Subscribe to them. Check them out. Try to get Landon and his crew on My Dawgs Are Barking podcast. Looks like just went over 9,000 subscribers on the NPW Digital, so that's impressive. So, yeah, check them out. And if everybody's still around, make sure to like, subscribe, share the podcast, and it should be interesting matchup. Mississippi State goes on the road, 4:15 on SEC Network, and one of the dogs will win for sure. Really appreciate you coming on, man. Yeah, man, go Dogs.